If there's one thing I've learned in the Splatoon community, it's that if Popgun calls, you answer. Recently, Rose posted a question on what the most common mistakes in Retake are, or situations when the enemy team is in possession of the majority of the map. As both a coach and high-level player, the answer in my experience is positioning. When you need to retake, you have to deal with the enemy having access to more possible positions than yourself and your team, which doesn't leave you with much left to choose from. But despite that, you still have to make the most of what you do have, and that's exactly what we're exploring today, with one underutilized retake position or angle for every single stage. Before I cover all stages in order though, let's look at Museum d'Alfonsino as my favorite example to establish what makes the angles I'll show you so important. Alright, so first, let's be sure we actually understand what I mean by retake positioning. So again, when I say that, what I mean is the opponent has possession of more than their half of the map. They have all of mid and potentially even crossing over further towards your half of the map properly. So the only thing we can properly assume we have access to is anything immediately accessible from our spawn platform like this. I can go straight forward, I can go up top right in the immediate area, and I can go up top left in the immediate area. Now, the mistake I see here often is that so many people on any mode will just, as soon as they respawn on retake and the enemies are pushing forward, they just shoot forward this main angle and start running up. And now what is wrong with this? On paper, we need someone to be able to go this way. It's kind of the central angle, it's near a lot of things, you have influence over a lot of things. But the issue is that it's the same for your opponent. In a spot like this, for example, I am exposed from top mid to any potential E-leaders, chargers, other kind of things. Any blaster, roller, slosher that likes being under these ledges can hit me. Anyone in this corner can hit me. And obviously anyone in this immediate space can come around either side of the spinner or even come up from above, and all of that shoot down at me all at once. When I'm here, I'm worried about someone here I didn't know about, anyone around here I didn't know about, someone down here I'm not looking at, someone over here I'm looking at, and you are one person. You can't look at all that. Even if your entire team is here, there's still more than 4 threatening angles than there are 4 of you. You know, there are more ways they can shoot at you than you can shoot back at them. So you do not want your entire team to be here. So with that said, what spots can we go instead that can help us to mitigate these threats, clear them for our teammates, and get into the map safely? Now on Museum, for me, that choice is top left. You can go top right, but that's something you can do on your own, and you can try to, I would send one person that way, never go that way as a team. More so this way is more of a team-oriented thing, that compared to where we were before, if I'm up here, anyone under that ledge, any charger top mid, I'm way too far away for them to hit me. If there's someone down here, I can shoot down at them safely, relatively safely. Anyone in this space, I can fire at them from high ground relatively safely. Even getting over here, I'm also going to shoot at the spinner, but even getting over here, anyone underneath this ledge, you think rollers, Splatanas, you've probably seen them before do their shenanigans underneath ledges trying to shoot into this space as well. You can also clear this out. So all of that just comes from this one route of just deploying yourself top left. You get to clear this space for your team, avoid a lot of threats to begin with, and even start to prepare yourself to drop from this different angle. Or even thinking if you're a charger player, some other backline long range weapon that might not want to drop aggressively, still being up there and being able to shoot down like this to clear the spot for the rest of your team to not have to worry about it and lay down a path for them is still also incredibly valuable. Okay, now with the main idea established, let's rapid fire some angles and positions you can take on retake for every other map in the game. Starting here with Scorch Gorge, for me the choice has to be top right. A lot of people go top left because how far forward that high ground extends, it feels like you can get pretty close to mid while still having an advantage. But I want to compare that to over here, where you have not only a lot more cover to work with as you're actually making your way towards this ledge, but once you are here, you can either use this cover further if you're a long range weapon to try to fight this way. You can drop here to actually have this ledge that protects you somewhat as cover from anyone who's not super far pushed forward here, and most importantly also get a pretty safe drop to this side that is also quite sheltered. So as either a long range or a close range weapon, either way you have some way to move through the right side to find some angle, some new position that's much further forward and can threaten different angles on the enemy than if you were just coming straight off spawn or that typical top left. Now, Eeltail Alley is a doozy to retake on no matter what, but I'd personally recommend going this right side as much as you can. You have this cover to work with as you're moving forward. Likewise with this ramp, this helps shield you from direct line of sight of anyone, even all the way up on your bridge and further left spawn. This drop is pretty brutal and there's not much ways to avoid this drop no matter which way you go, but if you do manage it, also once you're here, you can get up to bridge. Or, I think it's also quite underrated, is actually using this angle all the way over here. You can start to hit some people who might be sharking, or otherwise just start to drop into mid. This is a map where there is a gap you have to clear no matter what. That doesn't really feel good, but I think if you do manage to cross past a few enemies, getting to this right side has much more options that it rewards you with. A Hagglefish Market is a pretty clear-cut one for me. So many people will go top left in this main angle, but I really want to shout out this right side. First of all, you have this sponge, so it's actually not even a one-way drop for your team the way a lot of other spots in this game in general and also on this map will go, but also it is extremely common when you're locked out for enemies such as rollers, sultanas, blasters, buckets, any of those AoE ratty kind of weapons, to just set up shop underneath this tent tarp area. And you have a clear shot of it if you have any kind of range to shoot here. Even if you're a close range weapon, you can get onto the sponge, shoot, and easily retreat, or use the sponge as cover. And if no one is watching you here, you also get to use the cover of this ledge, or even just be really far to the side here to make a large gap of physical space as you move your way up to the right side to make a flank. Another quick thing to mention about this right side area actually on Hagglefish really quick is if you feel like you cannot drop this main angle safely to walk over here because enemies are pushed that far forward into your spawn, they'd like to show you a separate option actually for getting down there that is quite niche. You don't often need this, but it's something to keep in mind that this cover of these tents can actually sort of protect you as you make your way here, and you can actually drop outside the map in like this. So in a really dire situation, you can also try that. Undertow Spillway is also a map that in general can feel pretty uncomfortable to retake on, but once again, I promise it won't be this every time, but I will recommend the far right side. Reason being is that you might think left side is typically better because it gets you towards the zone or other objective, or just middle of the map if it's turf war, much more quickly than coming all the way right side. The right side also has the advantage of much more cover and also just much more physical space. Even if you're down here, if you can't threaten to uncap the zone right away, you still have a lot of ways to just maintain your presence here. Little bits of cover, little walls, also all sorts of things you can try to just build special here and get primed for a good position to use it. All the while, if someone does try to run at you, you have plenty of time to see them, space to fight them in, and options to actually win that out, and just be here closer than you would be straight from spawn while still being relatively safe in a lot of circumstances. On Mincemeat Metalworks, I'd highly recommend coming left side, at least having one person on your team come left side, to utilize this new area that they added ever since they reworked this map a while back. This angle actually gives you something to work with that you have some kind of cover, it's not the best, but you can at least retreat, and more importantly, it's a different vantage point to paint this left side space from. Again, get special, try to scout out enemies, and give yourself some room to drop as you get closer to the zone from this angle. It's much more common for enemies to stack on retake or on their hold towards the right side where there's the truck area, the block, and the grading, also then get way deeper into your spawn. It's less likely to have multiple enemies all trying to hold for you over on this direction, so you can usually isolate a fight and work your way forward from here to make that off angle. On Hammerhead Bridge, I again would highly recommend the far left side for basically any stage of lockout. This map is so long you can actually more reasonably think of lockout as being several different stages of severity. Even if you're all the way locked this far back, if you can even make it just through this ramp, it gives you a lot of space to be up here where enemies have to really push in deep into your spawn to fight you. You should be able to shoot back down at them, and perhaps other teammates as well coming off the spawn pad can clean them from the other angle. But even as you move further towards mid, you have plenty of space away from ledges to be careful against things like rollers and sultanas, so they can't just instantly kill you. And even if you do manage to get all the way down here, now you also have so many ways to clear out these corners one by one, all these different walls and possible spots people like to hang out one by one until they get close to mid. You can fire specials, drop down here, anything like that from this point. Definitely be careful not to just run straight down the center of the map here. You really want to use this left side. Now I'll be honest with you, if you lose the opening fight on Mahi, it might just be best to wait for the water level to drop because there's not a whole lot you can do on retake before that happens. That said, once the water does drop, I like left side personally. But there's something particular about it I want to point out. First of all, you can drop to these sides that in general are pretty far away from zone, and like we're saying with Hammerhead, you have this large area that's like a physically large raised area. That means you don't just have to be close to these ledges where you're more exposed, you're way more shielded back here, farther away. But what's especially interesting about Mahi once the water drops is even though this area down here is really open, there's not a lot of cover to work with, it is so physically large. I think a lot of people will come this left side and maybe try to drop like from this point, get near this block, get a kill here or two, and just immediately try to drop forward from there. But you can actually really stress how far left you can go. And even if opponents see you, if they're not a super long range weapon, they might still have to run a fair bit of distance, swim a fair bit of distance to get close enough to you to actually fight you, at which point you may have gotten all the way back here, for example, where we actually have some options to work with. On Inkblot, I'd actually recommend two small adjustments to what people typically do. You'll see a lot of aggressive players come this way on the left side and try to drop down here from tree this way.
And that's perfectly fine, there's moments for that, but I would say you can do it actually better in a lot of situations doing this far extreme side. The main reason for that is that this is much harder to see, and again, even if opponents do see it, maybe they check their map and they see you leaving an ink trail, or maybe they just happen to be checking all the way over here, it's more likely that for them to answer you, they have to really go out of their way. Compare trying to be on this block shooting up here to deny a flank, compared to having to come all the way over here if you're one of the enemy team.
Since that's a pretty small one, I likewise want to give a shout out to actually just how deep this corner goes, especially thinking a mode like tower control, where the enemies will take control of your bats quite often. It can feel pretty scary to get right up here and shoot down on them when they are all sorts of different ledges close over here. You can actually use, if you're a longer range weapon, use just how deep this corner goes to get some follow shots and lay out some turf with the close angles before you actually try to really close in the distance. Even something like this to shoot down on the ramp on tower control can be quite nice before you're really just dipping your toes over the ledge immediately. Similar idea to Inkblot left side, on Sturgeon Shipyard,
you have these two different ways the top right area is divided, and people tend to be drawn to the higher up spot that overlooks more mid directly they can really shoot down on, but don't underestimate this farther side. It's way more sheltered, a bit more physically far away, because again, it gives you the idea of just getting physically closer to mid before the enemies can actually respond to you, which especially as an aggressive weapon, this can help you really just get behind them and isolate a fight or two.
Like with Inkblot, on Micomart I actually want to give two smaller adjustments to things people might already do. For one, coming right side, people tend to like to take this right side and try to get a flank back there onto their stack.
But instead of coming up the ramp and trying to just drop directly into this, you can take it a lot more isolated and a bit more stealthily, coming all the way up your top right side and dropping immediately from up here down to this side. Opponents have almost no chance to see you unless they are all the way over here sharking this particular drop, in which case that's good on them, but also still, if they start fighting you, it should be a 1v1.
And for those backliners out there, don't underestimate this top left angle as a way to go on retake for yourself.
It can feel isolated sometimes, like pretty far away from your team, but getting to fight the enemy stack from this high ground is just so inherently powerful. Not only that, but if you're an especially long range weapon like pencil, e-leader, things like that, you can even reach some of these corners that the opponent aggressive weapons might be sharking under to deal with the rest of your team, and you can clear it out for them. This is especially powerful in tower control.
On Wahoo World, I'd recommend this far right angle utilizing the ink rail. It can be a bit risky to get here because enemies can see you pretty easily, and it's also possible that someone might be trying to flank your spawn down here, but for one, getting to catch that flanker early yourself can be valuable information.
But as well, if you do manage to get here, you're quite protected in an angle that otherwise not many enemies want to watch. Typically they're more concerned with the large drop all the way over there on the left side, but also regardless if you're long or close range of a weapon, if you're long range, you like this cover just to shoot into mid freely and over areas like this. If you're close range, you can actually use this wall to get closer, try to do some maneuvers to drop into mid, fight people from behind, or even can go all the way down here if you see an opportunity where it makes sense.
Rainwater Springs is another one where people really like to just gather on the main angle like Museum quickly. Don't just drop down here right away. You can either go left if you're an aggressive weapon, people tend to know about that, but please use this top right area more. You have a lot of space up here to work with, you're pretty shielded from being directly by the ledge, but also you can actually clear out some of these corners. Enemies might be sharking the rest of your team. You can paint up towards this drop on the right side as well and actually open it up for other people to use. On Flatter Heights, I'm going to recommend this far left way of getting up to top mid. Even if enemies have a lot of the space here, you only have to cross this small gap out in the open before you already have this wall that can shield you as you get close. For people to really try to shoot at you from here, they have to get either right above you as some weapon like a slosher you can shoot at, or actually just drop on you, and again, they're dropping into a 1v1. You actually have a fair chance of winning that. Also, as you keep coming up here, you have multiple different walls you can peek over and duck directly back under for more cover. For example, you can click here to help clear the ledge, the ramp, come up, and then also here you can search for enemies before you peek out, and once you do decide what you want to do, you can again try to paint zone, get control of this, and if you ever feel threatened, just drop right back down again. On Umami Ruins, it's going to be this left side that I recommend. It might seem kind of strange because it's quite exposed down here. People do know about this ink rail, but again, it's pretty exposed, pretty dangerous to take when enemies know you're doing it. But that's sort of the point. It's not actually necessarily that you drop here and actually expect to get behind it in mid super quickly, but it's more so the fact that you threaten it, because more often than not, enemies who have control of the map want to get up this ramp and keep pushing further and further into your spawn. By dropping down this way, you get around them and basically force them to, at least a few of them, to give up their total hold right up to your spawn and actually come this way to fight you, which in its own way is splitting them and giving you chances to get picks and get closer as well. Mentor Maria makes it pretty obvious for us, at least, in what's a good retake path, and it will be this right side. It's just so sheltered and large and away from a lot of the pressures of the map. This area just gives you so much to work with. I still consider this underrated because
on basically every single game mode, it's still far out of the way of the objective path, so it might feel like you're not being relevant by going here at first. For example, Tower Control, Rainmaker Claim Blitz, way more often than not, people will be coming through this way or this cut to come and make their scoring. As well as on Turf War, this is the main way people will push forward and advance into your spawn. But I'll still say this is a great retake angle to have because it gives you so many ways to fight those people as they're trying to push forward rather than coming at them head on.
Now, Barnacle and Dime will be very similar to Umami Ruins for me. I'll once again recommend this far left drop fast out of spawn. And people might not have that many good experiences with this if your very first reaction as soon as you make this drop is to then continue up forward and try to make something happen very fast. Unless you have actually seen that the enemies are not watching you and feel like you can get away with this, you're probably just going to be running into your death. But don't underestimate how long you can be down here and just kind of play it out, especially with the right weapons. Just being able to do that and get away with it, again, will pull an enemy or two away from the other areas of the map where they're holding the rest of your team out, and thinning out their numbers or attention in any way possible makes the rest of your team's life a lot easier. On Humpback, I don't think there's any beating the right side retake. People can be drawn to the left side for that giant window and how it gives you multiple ways to get into mid, but ultimately, every way you go on this map gives you a way to go into mid. And by comparison, you have a lot more ways to find different levels that you can isolate
to slowly clear them one by one coming from this right side. Way more cover, way more small changes in elevation. They can go one by one, eventually get to this bunker. From here, you can choose to go any way to fight someone in street, come up towards mid and shoot over towards mid, or even come all the way right side, fight someone down here, or keep going further. The options on right side are just really, really open and flexible, and ultimately, there are safe ways to move from one to the other pretty reliably.
Crab Leg is another map where I actually want to give two angles. They might seem kind of small, but they could be nice adjustments to what you might already be doing. Coming left side, I think this particular angle, especially if you're long range, is pretty underrated. People come over here for the ink rail, but not many people think about literally just the way you can fight this. So many people will come up either this corner or along this uninkable area to shark out the plat, and anyone here with the range to at least do something with it
can really clear out these spots for the rest of their team.
And on the other side of the map, if you're looking to be more proactive, coming this right side, you can drop down to this pit, and if you manage to clear this quick gap while you're supposed to mid, once you get to this block, you can just keep dropping this right side and start to get more of what we see before. Where even though you're on this pretty open low ground, you can get so physically far away from a lot of threats, so you actually have quite a bit of power to isolate fights and threaten to follow up if you're not being watched constantly. Once again on ship shape, I'm actually going to do the same thing. Starting with the right side proactive option this time. Coming this way, you really have so much physical space between where a lot of people might want to stand on lockout that once again, for them to deal with you, even if they see you, they really have to inconvenience themselves to actually come over to a way that they can reach you, and if they don't do so quickly, you find your way up
suddenly to a place you can really get a lot done.
But if you're a longer range weapon, or maybe just don't want to take something quite that risky, also don't underestimate how safe you can actually be all the way back towards this left side. Again, not just this area as a whole, specifically this far back as the wall compared to something like this ledge, where you can pretty safely throw bombs, take some shots, and move up closer once you've cleared that, and start to actually deal with a lot of these spots that people like to stand and shark and be safe while the rest of your team tries to run into them on the main angle. You can actually clear them. And also don't forget, if you're really long range, you can actually take some pot shots at people up top left if you're a charger or something. I've got a really funny one for Robo Ramen. Aggressive players, listen up. Watch.
You're welcome.
Bluefin is another map where it's important to just remember that you can take a roundabout way and it actually makes sense. Especially on splat zones when the enemy has zone and it moves towards this right side, you might feel like you want to come this way to get the most closest to zone most quickly, but also because enemies will probably use this elevator first or that wall first because zone already took them to this right side. But once again, coming left side actually gives you quite a bit more space and angles to clear the potential spots enemies might be one at a time, get closer and closer, all the while you're building special. And if you do manage to make your way all the way towards this left side, you can actually be basically on a full flank. Even something like an E-leader on their zone, if it is all the way right side, can't actually hit you this far away, and by this point, you've actually made an off angle. Marlin Airport, I'd also recommend for an aggressive weapon to consider this right side, but not just up to this point, because once you get here, you might be tempted to start fighting towards Spinner, anyone towards Grace, things like that, but you can just once again keep dropping right. And if you do manage to get away with this and get onto this fan, then you really can do just about anything from behind them. I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, Lemuria is pretty terrible, but if you have to retake with it, it's definitely one that's more than anything really contextual based. If people are coming towards this left side a lot, It might even just be best to go to the right side and try to get behind them, but that's quite vulnerable to anyone near their spawn, top mid, or sharking over there. The most reliable thing in general is probably to use this left side because so much of the cover almost follows these similar planes. Look at this, all of these walls, basically the entire length of the map, are just this pillow, this wall, this wall. These are all little indents more or less at this same depth. Same thing here with these walls and also with the bottom of mid itself. So any angle you can take moving up this left side gives you a lot of chances to clear people out who might be sharking underneath, giving your team trouble as you get towards the zone or other part of mid. And finally for Urchin, again it's pretty contextual, but overall I'd say don't underestimate the power of this left wall. It might feel strange because this grading doesn't actually let you really take shots at people much, it's mostly just to stand here. That's basically exactly what you want, because from here you can see so much of what's going on this hill area and this top left. Really just kind of take a moment to be sheltered, see what the enemy's doing, and make your decision from there to start clearing any of these spaces and go to your next spot. Likewise, this wall can do a little bit of a similar thing slightly further forward once you've cleared up to it. You're kind of using these walls as you get them to just scale forward. That of course being said, you basically always can attempt to get to this right side drop, and although enemies will usually be watching it, you can actually kind of call their bluff on it sometimes. Because if I'm on the enemy team and I'm saying I'm gonna watch this left side, it's not actually really a very narrow, easy thing to see. Someone could drop this corner, someone could get behind this wall and drop this side, or someone could drop close right, or technically anywhere in between. And even if they do drop, if I'm somewhere like here, if they get into this corner, I actually have to kind of swing into them somewhat close. So there's a lot of ways that someone can actually, even though they're being watched already as they take this drop, still sort of do it anyway and actually get away with fights you might not think they would be able to, even if they were being expected to try. And that'll do it for some of my favorite underrated retake angles on every single map. Of course, remember, this is a 4-player game. Not all 4 people on your team should do any one option. These are just ones to consider, that if you feel like you're running your head into a wall, not able to break into the enemy on certain maps over and over again, or especially if you're playing in a coordinated setting and you want to have some way to mix up what you're doing and force the enemy to respect multiple options, these are some things to consider sending 1 or 2 people on to do, instead of all just doing the typical main angle. And of course as well, let me know what you think, and if you have any ideas for angles you like as well that you think are underrated, feel free to share them in the comments. And otherwise, thank you for watching, and have a good one.